This morning, I would like to welcome Jon Prideaux, CEO of Boku, who is here with us to discuss Boku's 2019 financial results. Good morning, Jon.
Morning, Catherine. It's great to be here. And good to have a chat with you.
Could you give us the highlights of your 2019 results?
Yes, I can. So I'm delighted to be able to say that revenues were up by 42% to about $50.1 million. And that's excluding the effect, or including the effect of about $3.3 million of a sort of non-recurring item that we had in there. We signaled at the time of our trading update. When we've come to publish the EBITDA number, our adjusted EBITDA, that's also sort of grown nicely and is sitting there at $7.4 million, up from 6.3 in the previous year. So we're pretty happy with that. And I think we're also happy, just particularly in the context of the current circumstances, that our cash balances are also pretty healthy. So at the end of the year, and this is somewhat inflated by sort of movements in and out from carriers, but at the end of the year, we were reporting cash balances of about $35.6 million, and that was up from $32.2 million at the end of the previous year. If you take into account ins and outs, which is probably our preferred cash measure, we were still showing a slight increase in our cash. So we had an average daily cash balance of about $22.4 million. So the group is healthy, and the group is also able to deliver strong growth in revenue as well as in EBITDA. And so that's, we think, a pretty satisfactory set of results.
Could you talk us through the underlying performance of the payments business, excluding the one-off revenue recognition?
I can, yes. So that's a good way to think of it. I mean, the first thing to talk about on the payments business about some of the fundamental drivers, and we are thrilled to be able to report the fact that we did slightly over $5 billion worth of transactions in 2019, and that was an increase once again of more than 40%. Now that's driven by the number of monthly active users on our platform. And by the end of the year, that had risen to 17.8 million monthly active users, an increase from 2018's figure of just around 13.5 million. And I think it's probably also worthwhile saying, because we gave a trading update around this, that since the start of the year, that's further increased to over 18 million monthly active users in the short month of February. Now, taking those non-financial KPIs and translating them into revenue, we were happy to be able to report revenues for payments at around just over $40 million, a good increase from the previous year. And the official reported amount includes 3.3, as you say, of non-recurring revenue. Now, the gearing in this business really comes through when you start looking at payments. So as I mentioned previously, we had $6.3 million worth of EBITDA in the payments, or that was the whole company in 2018. In 2019, the payments division alone, excluding the any effect from this non-recurring item, grew by 100% to take you up to $12.6 million worth of EBITDA, which I think is a pretty decent performance.
You've made several announcements about signing up mobile wallets. Could you explain how these work with the Boku platform and what opportunity you see in this market?
One of the things about the Boku platform is that it's sort of flexible and resilient. And that flexibility allows us not only to connect to mobile network operators as payment partners, but we can also plug in other alternative payment mechanisms. And these mobile wallets are an example of them. Now, they're very big within Asia. And in fact, according to a recent WorldPay report, they account for nearly 60% of all payments within Asia. I mean, they're not really an alternative at that point. They're the mainstream payment mechanism. And what we've been able to do is to sign up something like 10 of these wallets and across 9 countries. And we've announced a few of them. And indeed, recently we announced with the Pearl Abyss launching a big games customer across a number of these different wallets. Now, the interesting thing about wallets is they create a further avenue for growth with marginal expense. What they enable us to do by plugging in another payment network into our platform, our existing customers can also consume these additional payment methods, leading potentially to higher TPV without us really having to do much in the way of cost. Now, I would still say, although we're having more customers and you've been seeing more announcements about supply from Gojek and from GrabPay, and indeed launches from the like of Pearl Abyss, it's still relatively early days for us on wallets. But the potential in terms of the TAM, the total available market here, is that these wallets could be as big as the current carrier billing volume if things fall in the right place. We'll try to provide some more formal guidance at the half-year stage when we've had big customers, with big wallets going live. But for the time being, the indications are promising. We are seeing good uptake. We are seeing sort of good levels of spending, and so we are pretty optimistic about our prospects as far as e-wallets are concerned.
You acquired Danal at the beginning of 2019 to kickstart your identity business. Could you give us an update on the progress you've made since then?
Yes, we can. I mean, I think the first thing to say in respect of Danal is that we did sort of finalize the purchase price, so it ended up being like a $25 million acquisition. And we're making some decent progress as far as internationalization is concerned. So we bought the business, which is really a US-orientated company, with the idea of trying to build out a global identity network alongside the carrier billing network we've got at the moment. Because we just feel that there are opportunities to be able to simplify the process of verifying your phone number. There has to be a better way of doing that than just sending around these SMS messages and copy-pasting them around. And indeed, there's a great deal of demand for it. And so the internationalization side is probably the key to understanding whether this business is going to work or not. We delivered, I think, results that were a little below expectations. We had some problems in the US in that one carrier did stop offering the services that we were using. But nevertheless, we were able to grow our billable transactions by about 45% year on year. And that delivered revenue growth of about 26% on the identity business, both those obviously on a pro forma basis, to take us through to 6.7 million. So I think we still have some work to do, and progress on identity will be measured by our ability to launch new carrier connections in new countries outside the US. And so our progress in India and Indonesia is a good signal for an improving profile as far as identity is concerned. We were also able to improve the performance of identity at the EBITDA level. So previously, the business had lost something like $6.5 million before, $6.4 million on a pro forma basis. And then we were able to reduce those to just over 5 million or so. So we're seeing some improving financial performance, albeit not as good as we would have liked.
Okay, and could you talk us through your short and medium-term priorities, and also give us an update on how you think coronavirus is likely to impact your business?
Well, let's start with coronavirus, because I think that's probably the topic that will be on a lot of people's minds at the moment. And you look around and you see other industries who are based on travel or face-to-face contact or high street, etc. And you can see many of these industries and hospitality or travel or ticketing suffering very badly. I suppose we're somehow on the opposite side of that coin. I mean, if more people are at home, then amongst the things they need to do when they finish working from home is obviously be entertained. And our customers provide a lot of that home entertainment. And so we are seeing material increases in the uptake of our services for streaming video. We're seeing material increases in uptake for games customers. We're seeing that reflected in app stores that provide those services as well. And that's clearly correlated together with those places where governments are putting in place restrictions, which are causing more people to be at home. And so we are in the fortunate position, whilst this crisis is going on, that we are not having to worry about any negative impact as far as our payments business is concerned. In fact, quite the reverse. We're seeing growth in Europe. We're seeing growth in the Middle East. We're seeing growth in a number of Asian countries as well, where people are just consuming more in terms of games and particularly streaming video, and that growth will continue, I suppose, for as long as the restrictions continue. I mean, as a company, we are distributed, and obviously on the supply side, we can supply very easily because as a digital business. On the demand side, I just talked about that. And as a company, we are geographically distributed, so we have people effectively split a third between Asia, mostly in India, a third in Europe, and about a third in the US. And those people are all used to working from home, some of them all the time as a standard thing, but many of them just some of the time. And we've quickly adapted, as I speak to you now. We'll have to see how we feel after a longer period, but we've reasonably quickly adapted to the fact that we're working from home all the time and using a lot of these remote tools to make it happen. So it's not really affecting our ability to operate the business. It's not really affecting at the moment, it seems, our implementations, although there's perhaps a little bit more friction as far as implementations are concerned. And happily, the sales conversations we're having also seem to be able to progress as the world tries to move into a remote way of working. I mean, I would sound a slight cautionary note in the sense that out and out prospecting, where we're just trying to find really new customers to work on our business, perhaps a little bit more difficult to come across. And in terms of day-to-day impact, I can also say in our identity business, we've seen no evidence in our identity business of billable transactions being affected by the virus. We're seeing people still sort of wanting to go online to be able to file their taxes or to undertake various other transactions and need mobile identity solutions just as they need to be entertained at home. So I think, in the short run, my priority is obviously about trying to make sure that my people are safe, to try to make sure that the company can continue to operate and that our customers and our carrier partners can continue to operate. And in the longer run, when we come out from this crisis, then clearly we have the same basic priorities. We need to internationalize an identity. We need to build out things on the wallet, and we need to continue to operate the successful machine that we have as far as our direct carrier billing business is concerned, a machine which, I should remind you, delivered 100% increase in EBITDA in 2019.
Thank you, Jon, for coming in and taking the time to talk to me.
Catherine, it was my absolute pleasure. It was great to talk to you too.